To go into our final match of the day, which is going to be Seiko versus SilverName. And not only the final match of the day, but the final match of the week here, the European Grandmasters. So once today is done, we'll be able to have a much more fleshed out version of what the scores are looking like. Already, though, we can see the bans are coming in, and they are double warrior bans, back to normality, Sottle, where we can have a sane match of Hearthstone, hopefully. Especially because I don't see any mages either. So ticking all the boxes so far for this one.
I can feel you. You're starting to come around. You're joining my side. I can feel it day by day, moment by moment. But yeah, double warrior ban is going to come out here. There is the potential for some hilarity, though, as Seiko does have that Galakron Priest, of course. Again, a deck with which all things are possible. But then the Rogue and the Demon Hunter are going to back that up, which are two of the most common brings, alongside Warrior, which is mostly banned in every series, with the odd exception.
Yeah, especially considering that although Seiko's Rogue, is a little bit different from standard, it really is just a few tech cards in there. There's Double Frozen Shadow Weaver, the Bone Wraith, and a copy of Heart Defender. So there's just, although it is general Galakron Rogue, there is just a couple of spicy tech cards in there. Whereas SilverName, on the other hand, has his Rogue, his Demon Hunter, and his Zoo Warlock. So a generally sort of, I would say, top tier, just overall kind of aggressive lineup here from SilverName. That Rogue as maybe the factor that might slow the games down just a touch. But in general, I think I like SilverName's lineup as well.
Yeah, speaking of aggressive lineups, I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen anyone except, I think, Firebat go full aggro with their lineup, play like, Demon Hunter, Face Hunter, Zoo or something like that with alongside Warrior, and then the assumption that your Warrior's getting banned and you're banning their Warrior, and then you're just kind of left with the three aggro decks versus their lineup. Curious whether that was something that has required a bit more experimentation, because I think Firebat brought it last week, but has then backed off a little bit this week and brought a lineup more similar to SilverName. So be interesting. See if even with all the aggro nerfs coming in now, maybe we've missed the window for that and we're not going to see too many full aggro lineups moving forward.
Yeah, it's something that's happened in the past as well, just in previous Hearthstone metas where quad aggro was completely viable and almost, at certain points, just the strategy, actually, when some of the more powerful aggro decks were knocking around. But we are going to just quickly get into game number one here, and it is going to be not a rematch, since it's two different players, but a rematch of classes with Demon Hunter versus Zoo here for Seiko and...
Yeah, it's looking like a much smoother opener for Seiko than Boar had in that game, though, where he was really quite locked out for the majority of the game by his draws. Seiko does have some options. Yeah,
the double Sate Overseer to be weaved in. I guess the card that's missing is Umberwing here to really make this powerful. But really, just even having the second one with Warglaive of Azinoth not only clears up a lot of the Zoo board, but then can actually generate a reasonable size Sata board as well to kind of just flip the board on.
Frozen Shadow Weaver, the egg. Nice. Mostly just about getting a 4-3 into play. It does have some niche outcomes with Abusive Sergeant or whatever else, but yeah, it looks a bit silly when SilverName just goes ahead and drops the Evil Genius on it as well. And I guess this is another answer worth talking about when I was talking about the Flame Imps in the previous series and about how they give you an alternate game plan. Well, Serpent Egg and Evil Genius kind of fulfill that role as well.
SilverName probably a little bit unimpressed with the two lackeys. He has none that actually impact the board immediately, i.e. Taunt with plus health, Kobold Lackey to deal damage, Goblin Lackey to rush, is just generate more minions or generate a dragon. So I imagine it's going to be Faceless here, just to put as much stuff on board as possible.
Ooh. Yeah, I'd chalk Faceless up as a win, personally. Especially when it does that.
To deal with this 4-3.
Sure, yeah, Rush Lackey would have been huge.
Or even just taunt up, say, even the Serpent, right? And to say, okay, you've got to trade both minions in now.
Yeah. I was actually curious on the last turn about, instead of coin Shadow Weaver, whether Seiko would ever go coin Satyr Overseer, which of course is punished by Abusive Sergeant quite badly on that egg. But in non-Abusive Sergeant worlds, you get a pretty nice payoff on the next turn with I-Beam and Hero Power just to swing the board state and generate 2/2s.
So
kind of into it.
Running one Abusive Sergeant in its list, so it's as unlikely as it's ever going to be at that point.
Actually, now that I mention it, I think we saw that in Americas, possibly last night, where it was just Saiyan who did make that exact play against Zoo. against a one-of abusive sergeant, but the one-of abusive sergeant was there, so he ended up getting punished for it. But I remember seeing the play at the time and thinking, I'm looking at the abusive sergeant, and this still just feels kind of right to me. So no surprise that I was in favor of it there with Seiko.
All I see is weakness.
The way this breaks down, though, I will say Seiko now is able to get immediate value out of one Overseer, and then he has that Warglaives combo with the second one. So maybe having the Warglaives available is an influence to cause him to hold back a little bit on the Overseers. I can definitely see that logic.
So I think it's a little bit funky as well for SilverName. He does have the Carpet, which is fantastic, and for me, one of the key cards in fighting against Demon Hunter in the early game. But with his hand, he needs the Hand of Gul'dan or a Scrap Imp. He needs one of the key pieces, I feel, to just outvalue Seiko here. Mainly because we can just see that Warglaives and the I-Beam in hand.
Yeah, the Warglaives is going to be a big deal, sure, for one turn, but it's not going to swing the board state, because the Overseer will certainly die this turn, which means after the Warglaives comes down, SilverName is going to be able to redevelop. As long as he keeps his resource count fairly high, he should be able to deal with this Warglaives at least.
Yeah, I actually wondered if Seiko's going to take a very slow Warglaives turn next turn, and then have what the other swings plus Hero Power plus Overseer plus I-Beam.
Yeah,
that's the swing turn. You take one slow one, and then go kind of all out with all the rest of the cards for the six. I think might just be the more consistent and powerful play overall.
Why do you fall?
okay. You see one of the arguable downsides of the Camerathad in that spot, where his Voidwalker no longer gets +1 attack and rush because he played it for 0 instead of 4 with 1. But it does, in this world, at least allow him to get that extra minion in play, since he's able to max out his mana with just playing regular 1-drops anyway. This is the thing, like, can you afford to just Warglaives and pass in this position? Like, it's super ugly, right?
I want to say yes. And the point is, Seiko's on 28, so it's pretty healthy, yeah? He has the I-Beam to make up some of that next turn, but also there is only, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 power on board, and only 2 board spaces.
Yeah.
So if he swings in, he's just giving more board space for SilverName to just redevelop, and then he'll be on less charges. I think maybe he should wait. He's got the health.
I think that's all fair. You do have to sort of double the damage that's in play, right? Because Seiko's going to take 10 here, and then he's going to take as much as he takes by swinging into these minions, which makes life a little bit scarier.
The important part is, though, he can I-Beam a 3/2, which reduces some of the impact of that down, right?
Yeah.
Although probably didn't expect an evasive worm to drop down this turn. Definitely makes that plan a little bit less fun for Seiko at least.
Mm-hmm.
I will say,
so
though,
here comes the swing turn.
Yep. Even though it hurt this past turn and maybe hurts a little bit this turn, I think this was the way that Seiko has a chance at winning. I think if you just use the Warglaives last turn, then look how bad this turn is. Just a swing and a glaive bound, I think might be a little bit slow.
Right.
So going up to 5 is really nice. This card.
Yeah, Chaos Strike was actually huge there. But now, you can see the difference that I-Beam makes, because if this last swing did not... if this last minion did not die to healing, then it would have just been there on board and been representing lethal alongside the Evasive Worm and the Soulfire.
But look at what the swing turn's achieved.
Yep.
SilverName, somehow, is on the back foot right now, because, especially with that live tap, Seiko has 2 turns worth of lethal set up here with all these minions. And then the problem SilverName's got is if Seiko's took all that damage from trading, but then SilverName's forced to trade himself, he isn't actually utilizing the fact that Seiko took tons of self-damage this past turn.
Right.
He has to start trading, so it doesn't do the job overall. That draw wasn't that great either. Voidwalker's okay to soak up some damage, but he actually wanted something that he could Evil Genius and not lose out on. I do feel he loses out a little bit here, losing this taunt.
Okay. Spell Lackey is interesting. Hellfire is insane.
But Shadow Council is kind of a scrap. That's the last time I'm not even going to promise. Look at that. Does that give Seiko any indication as to what that spell is?
I'm not sure. I think probably, if anything, like Seiko might just say, okay, he definitely has a Soulfire in hand, and then maybe just assume he also found damage, but I don't think it's like necessarily an indicator of exactly Hellfire.
Demons?
This is just kind of this matchup in a nutshell. It is very racy, and it's a lot of games of like trading chicken, where each player is trying to force the other one to trade so they can just keep going face and put the opponent on a clock.
The benefit here is this Playbound Adept can clean up this worm pretty easily, as Battle Price can target.
Yeah. Crucially, it's also out of range of the Hellfire.
Yep.
Which means the clock is still very real.
Does he have to Soulfire the 6-4? Or 6-1, I guess?
We are friends.
Just private.
Oh! Oh! Wait till
No.
next turn!
You
Lethal!
definitely do not Soulfire that Glade-bound Raven.
Oh, wow. I'm making its way not only into Warrior as a staple, but maybe even Warlock too.
So many possibilities.
Just beaming Sidekick, say go, right?
Hmm.
There's no way. You can't play around 8 damage and not have a lethal set up yourself the next
So
turn, right?
many possibilities.
Surely. Okay, I guess he... Oh, no, okay. So here's the theory. If you beaming Psychic, if you just Soulfire the minion, then you're betting on there just being... You still having a 3-2 in play the next turn. Or Demon Hunter doing what Demon Hunter does and just removing it with their face anyway, right? So then they're at functionally 3 health because the minion from the Brightwing sticks. You play around damage outs from your opponent, and then you also still have Grom to end the game.
There's also
So I
a
guess
chance
there is a debate there.
where he was dead to Metamorphosis, right? Oh, wait, no. He's off. I thought he was dead to like Hero Power, Meta Hero Power, but he's not.
Yeah, he's dead
One
to
off.
combinations of cards, yeah. Those are looking very combination-y.
In the shadows.
8, 9, 10,
12.
11, 12, yeah.
Oh, Psycho.
Okay, you play the Grom and you Soulfire the Grom. That is the only acceptable way to do this.
Of course.
Any other way is strictly incorrect. SilverName, I'm counting on you.
We will afford you the loss, SilverName, if this happens.
Come on!
Oh, well, okay, I guess Psycho takes the game.
Yeah, game 1 to Psycho. SilverName goes 1-0 out. Big win, of course, with him. We probably shouldn't be making light of the situation because SilverName potentially has his GM career on the line here. As he is off to a pretty appalling start so far with the 0-2, but I do think that he is an incredibly accomplished player. I genuinely think SilverName doesn't quite get enough credit for how good at the game he is. I think he's, clearly not as in touch with the competitive metagame as some other people are because it's not his number one focus. He's been, a full-time streamer for quite some time now in Hearthstone with spectacular results. But I think, just the amount of Hearthstone that's caused him to play, and clearly his just affinity for card games and his ability to play the game at a high level means that he is just an incredibly good Hearthstone player. So, sometimes his deck choices or his particular builds of decks might lead something to be desired, but I think his actual onboard, in-game, technical turn-by-turn play is incredibly good.
Yep, execution seems to be there for SilverName, and he does have his Rogue and Demon Hunter left now. So with the win on the Zoo, got to be feeling pretty comfortable. Although, again, we'll be keeping track of the Rogue wins across today to just get a final result. Maybe I'll talk about it more in the curve, as I did say about how badly Rogue did last week in the curve. Maybe I should give it its due and say about how good it's done this week. We'll see if I can be bothered with that one. Might just ignore the fact that it's something for Sol to brag about going forward. But he does have Rogue Demon Hunter versus Rogue Demon Hunter, and that Priest that Seiko does have available. And one of the early adopters to Priest was Seiko in Grandmasters. I'll see if it pays off for him here. Oh, I still think the series is pretty close, and a lot of it might come down to this Rogue from SilverName getting a win. I don't know about you, Soto, but I put Demon Hunter quite close to Warrior in respect of saying, well, he has Demon Hunter to play. If he plays it, he could probably get a win with it somewhere.
I don't. That's not been the case in Grandmasters at all. Like Demon Hunter is running at around or just under 50% in Grandmasters, whereas Warrior is running at 80%. Like I don't think those two things are comparable at all. If anything, Demon Hunter seems to be underperforming ever so slightly in the GM metagame. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Demon Hunter's able to pick up a win.
Yeah, I will say it's probably the numbers don't quite stack up the same because there've been a ton of mirrors, I think, which does make it a little bit worse overall. But we'll take a look here. Seiko's looks like he's going to be going for his Priest instead, and he is just running that one Apotheosis and the double Moag Artificer, which is more of like an old school version of the list. No Holy Novas in there. But still, just going to see how this pays off. And it is your favourite matchup of the moment, Sotter. It's going to be the Priest versus Rogue. Sit back, get comfortable. You might be in for a long haul.
We might, and be interested to see SilverName's particular take on this matchup as well, because as I mentioned, he's not necessarily someone that I assume is like super up-to-date with the competitive metagame, so he might just be sort of playing this matchup on his own instinct, so I'll be curious to see what his instinct is as to the way the matchup should be played.
Oh, Seiko with the pretty reasonable opening. And I think with this being specifically Galakron Priest, playing minions into the rogue spells doesn't feel as bad because you're invoking Galakron. You are doing what Priest does with respect to card draw, which is not draw cards, but generate cards in hand. So yeah, I like this, even though in some instances playing a cheap minion into a rogue could be bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth the swing. Priest hero power is a big problem if you do so.
So it begins. Thought Steal into Galakron. Let's get.
Yep.
Not even shocked anymore. If you're wondering at home, wow, why don't the casters sound excited about this? We expect these kind of shenanigans now. We've seen enough of Priest. If you expect any form of standard output from Priest, then you've not watched enough of him.
Genuinely, that's a huge outcome, though, because that's one of the big problems that Priest can have in this matchup, even though I do believe Priest has an edge in the matchup, is that they can just get starved of cards. They don't really have any way to draw key cards from their deck. They can generate resources, but there's some cards in their deck that just aren't applicable to anything else they can generate. There's a Soul Mirror in there, there's a Murazond in there, which unless you're generating exactly a Murazond, it's a struggle to find something that has effect of similar quality to those cards. Well, Rogue Galakrons can just draw you 4 cards, and you're just marching along getting the invokes done anyway,
Yeah, it can, and I do wonder if we're going to see Seiko put a priority on using the Rogue Galakron before he uses his own Galakron, because in terms of overall power, the Priest Galakron hero power outweighs the Rogue one quite significantly.
Also worth knowing that the 2 Galakrons are essentially desynced here, I've run into this situation before. If you steal someone else's Galakron, it only starts invoking from that point where you stole it. So the first invoke has not gone onto the Rogue Galakron. So Seiko's Rogue Galakron is at 1 invoke right now. His Priest Galakron is at 2 invokes. That's a ludicrous sentence. I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. Ah, Priest.
Seiko is going for some of these tempo plays, though, just getting some Mind Flayer down onto the Van Cleef. And although, of course, it'll only be a 2-2 when it comes out, it's just still a minion in a box, right? It'll still just have the benefit of if it's traded into it, still just spits out something else afterwards.
Yeah.
SilverName. I'll go for the shield of field. Not putting on pressure of his own. And this is where the matchups get really weird, is sometimes this happens, but most of the time this will happen for a couple of turns, and then the game just stalls out. Each one will clear the opponent's board, and then it starts getting slow again.
Right. That is a huge board swing, though. I think I was talking about that yesterday, possibly even earlier today, with the Aeon Reaver just being just a straight-up clean Edwin killer in the way that very few cards are.
Yeah, and I think that was today. If it was yesterday, then all the days are merging into one subtle, which
that sounds entirely possible.
Oh, it's possible. It just worries me.
Yeah.
Job's done.
SilverName so far, just in terms of how it appears he is playing the matchup, just seems to be max tempo all the time. Just generate the biggest board and the biggest tempo swings that he can on any given turn, which, yeah, it's not far off what I think is correct, to be honest. Fate Weaver, obviously massive draw after Seiko's already 2 invokes down. I haven't even mentioned the Dirty Tricks as well, which is just even more card draw for the Priest as well, serving that issue even further.
Who needs weaknesses, Subtle, when you Priest? Just steal everyone else's strengths.
On wings of evil.
Evasive Worm, not too bad at all.
Yeah, SilverName still has limited information as to what this secret is, though. It has to pick, you know, based on covering all the options. Bamboozle, for example, is potentially a bit of a misery.
Which the Evasive Worm could be quite good against, actually.
Find out. Not Bamboozle, so now he's down to exactly Dirty Tricks.
Too soon.
Go Faceless Corruptor instead and hold the worm. Sure, it's fine.
Play Faces like his own.
Yeah, it develops more power this way. Evasive Worm is just kind of a card you can use in isolation. It's just vanilla good on its own, whereas Faceless Corruptor needs some kind of setup. So that Rogue Galakron still currently only draws 1 card, despite his Fate Weaver being active on the previous turn.
Your future is
It's one of those rogue hands again, Raven.
Yeah.
Just seems to be a bunch of lackeys in a dream.
Yeah, not the key power cards, although that can turn around very, very quickly, of course. Just the draw of a Galakron, the draw of a Togwaggle to help with that card draw. But as you do like to discuss, the wand from Togwaggle, not an auto pick in the matchup, as it can be replicated by a Mirza.
Yeah, and that's huge. As an enormous shield of Galakrons. Not in the least because it just hands Seiko another Fate Weaver. Seiko's just going to end up with a full hand of things that cost 0 here. He's going to Fate Weaver everything else down to 0, and then Galakron's going to draw him even more 0 mana cards.
Yeah, I mean, we saw something similar happen yesterday in that Priest mirror, right? Was it yesterday or Friday? I think it was Friday, actually, where some of the cards were really just coming down to just 1 and 0 mana, which was crazy. I think we saw yesterday that there was just a Shadow Word Death or whatever for 0 mana, and even though it is only a 2 mana reduction, making a card 0 is insane. It's so much more powerful than, say, 1 odd.
Mm-hmm.
What does SilverName even do with this hand? What is even the plan? Just don't fall too far behind and just wait?
Something like that, yeah. I mean, as long as he's still in a relatively comfortable position on the board, which so far he has been. Does not really feel like he wants to be flicking away this Shielded Galakron when he still has 1 copy of that himself left in the deck, which is a potentially strong draw for him. But at the same time, that might just be plan A, where he's just like, all right, tempo play, just push, hope my opponent doesn't have the answers. From SilverName's perspective, Seiko's not really shown any indication of being able to draw cards here if SilverName keeps the dirty trick shut off.
Yeah. Just with the Shadow Step, it's just not worth it right now. There's nothing that's that powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So now Seiko could get a 2/0 mana Penance, a 0 mana Smite, 2 mana Holy Nova, 5 mana Galaxy.
What is Elun's will?
Could play most of his hand this turn.
Could also Soul Mirror and still clean up the remainder, like both remaining parts of the Temple Berserker with Penance and Holy Smite, or with double Penance,
What
and still
is
retain a
Elun's will?
Enraged Reborn Temple Berserker of his own, which is a pretty big tempo swing this turn. It's a lot of resources, but again, I'm trying to adjust to the luxury that Seiko has here of actually being able to draw cards this game. Because I don't think you'd ever make this play if you didn't have Dirty Tricks equipped and have a Galakron that's going to draw cards in your hand already. In the situation that he's in, I really like it.
Yeah, it makes sense because whichever way you do it, you know there's always the refill there, which, as you mentioned, is not the case with Priest in general. The refill's not always there. That's the problem. You have to really push out all the value out of every single card you can in most scenarios. This is not most scenarios. This is a Priest disguised as a Galakron rogue disguised as a Priest.
Okay, is it time?
I was gonna say, I don't know, it looks like a good Holy Nova setup, honestly, but Seiko can do both!
Yep. He can almost
Too soon.
play his second Fate Weaver and still play both. Very close.
Double time and double pay.
Most importantly, I don't actually think the Holy Nova is super effective here. No, never mind. It just got quite a lot better.
Well, yeah, it was effective until the trade happened, right, with the Rush Lackey?
Yeah.
Because then the Berserker could have gone in and wiped the Bone Wraith. Not now, of course, but who needs effectiveness when you can just draw 0 mana Galakron and Breath of the Infinite with Moag as well?
Oh my goodness.
Raise the eyebrows from SilverName. Don't blame him. A difference in hand. SilverName is a 1/2, a 1/1, and a Shadow Step. Seiko has the universe right now.
So Seiko can nuke the board with Kronks, then play his Fate Weaver, and then still Holy Smite the Reborn on the Bone Wraith at the end of it all.
He
did choose to hero power though, so he's not going to go for that line.
I think you just need to nuke the board here. With Kronk specifically, I think the Breath is fine. I think Kronks can be used a little bit more actively.
Return is nigh.
What? It did both! It did both! Oh, that's so great! I've never seen that before.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Oh, that's funny.
It did both, Raven.
I've never seen that before either.
Let me read the card. Draw Galakron. If you're already Galakron, unleash it. Yeah, okay. I was just saying, like, if the word "or" was in there somewhere, but no, it's not.
I mean, technically, it does both every time.
Sure, yeah, no, that's fair.
Because it's always trying to draw Galakron, right?
Yeah.
Oh, now the
Oh, that's such a great
Morazans
redemption
in
story when you frame it like that. There's all the Kronkses that have been trying so hard to draw Galakron, but Galakron's already in play. Finally, this is the little Kronks that actually managed to get both done.
What is this? I mean, I don't even blame SilverName at this point. It's unlikely this ever works. But look at his hand. He's like playing a basic deck against a deck full of legendaries. Some players would probably think. That's what it feels like, at least.
Yeah.
Seiko could do whatever he wants. And are we going to see another game ended by Deathwing into Morazund, Deathwing, and then a removal tool? We've already seen that once this weekend.
I just want to see Seiko fully invoke his second Galakron, but since there was a Shadow Step played on the previous turn, this is probably a good time for the Murazons.
Yeah, and he gets to Seal Fate anyway, so... That invokes his Galakron, right?
Yep.
Oh, another Shadow Step.
He's a rogue! He's discovering rogue spells!
Darkness wanes.
This is the best!
If Seiko wins, is this a win for Rogue for the win rate?
Yes!
I don't know!
Yes, I'm putting this one in the rogue. Neil, Lorinda, I command you, this one goes in the rogue stats. You can't argue with the game client, and the game client would give you a rogue win for this. That's actually how it works.
Look at this big play here from SilverName. Can it be answered? Yes. He can just time rip it. All Galakron. Just Galakron number 2, why not?
Do it. Do it. No, don't do it. Stay rogue. I want you to win as rogue.
Nope. Galakron's his priest again. You can't use your own rule and then disregard your own rule when it doesn't suit
No,
something.
I understand. I'm remaining consistent with that logic. That's why I want him to remain a rogue. Excellent work. Good job, Simon.
Now there's just a scavengers in hand. Why? Why are we adding other cards into this?
Okay, big turn. Back to you.
Yep. High impact turn there from SilverName. Seiko. I think Seiko could share some of his cards with SilverName and still be okay in this game.
Cold Blood.
Dragon's Horde, just discover a different class card.
And you go Sethic, Apotheosis, Cold Blood. Generate some more pre-spells in your hand. These actually will still be pre-spells. That's how Sethic works.
Have a Shadow Step Imperial here, or is that going a bit too deep?
Seems fine.
Fine. Yeah, I don't know. Mage spell, why not at this point?
Yep. Cold Blood number 2. No. Damn.
Deadly Poison. Is his Galakron
Deadly-
fully evoked? So he can
No!
Galakron into
No,
Deadly
he's
Poison.
gonna get lethal turning into a priest and then deadly poisoning his weapon. No! Remain a rogue.
SilverName, don't you dare concede.
Please concede.
Echo, don't beat, don't beat him up too hard.
I give up.
Yes! No! Psycho evens up the series with a priest that is on that victory screen. Therefore,
it's a lie.
it is a priest win.
It's a lie. You accepted my terms, Raven. You accepted my terms. That was a rogue win. But our petty little squabbles aside of whether rogue is good or not, we were clearly having a bit of fun with it, but that is anything but a fun result for SilverName. We've seen that multiple times where the actual rogue for the game is the class that started as the rogue when you queued in is starved of cards, and it is quite unusual to see because not really since card draw was quite limited apart from Gadgetzan Auctioneer when rogues were built like that. Did you really see Rogue falling apart like that? And we're starting to see it now in GM where multiple players are just getting completely starved of resources, which is, you know, something I guess that Hunter Ace's build has going for him because that's almost never going to happen with the amount of card draw that he plays.
Yeah, and we even saw that a lot of that was to do with just the weird shape and level of threats that Priest can drop down. Even just look at that Mind Flayer, right? Mind Flayer on a 2/2. Well, that's okay. A Seal Fate cleans it up easily. Okay, well, what about the minion afterwards? Backstab? Okay, well, there's 2 cards. Your like is probably going to be used on something they played a little bit earlier or a little bit after. And so, yeah, I think Priest does just also specifically against Rogue just soak up a lot of the early cards. But Priest doesn't really care about those early cards. It's much more for them just about playing out their hand. Especially when they are some of the earlier minions that aren't really the value generation cards. They're more just the minions you have in your deck you want to drop out anyway and get those invokes cooking. So, yeah, maybe it is just soaking up all the rogue cards early in the game and drying them out a bit. But we are going to move swiftly on to game number 3, and it's going to be a Demon Hunter era.
Beaming Psychic in the opener for SilverName, along with Frozen Shadow Weaver, which we have seen both kept and thrown away by various different players. I think it was Shaxi, from memory, who threw away a Shadow Weaver in APAC and was criticized in doing so by Derek and Gia. We've seen how crucial it can be against that early Umberwing and just all the tempo that Umberwing provides in the early game in the Demon Hunter mirror.
Yeah, I think I'd lean towards agreeing with a keep. It's just never... I think we talked about it yesterday where this isn't a reason to keep a card, but it's just one reason I would consider is it's just never bad. I've never seen Frozen Shadow Weaver get played and it be a bad thing. It always freezes the minion or freezes face, especially in this matchup. You know, they outlined all the benefits of that, but I guess it's fair to point out that we've not talked about today is this Blowtorch Saboteur from Seiko.
You just about got that out. Yeah, it's a pretty unique card to Seiko's lineup here. Seiko, again, does have a little bit of a habit of doing this, of just playing a little bit of a twist on his builds of the deck, but it's a anti-hero power card, making your hero power 3 more expensive, which can be pretty vital in the metagame right now. There's a lot of very powerful hero powers with, obviously, this matchup that we're looking at. Demon Hunter itself, that's what the Frozen Shadow Weavers are for, really, to deny hero power value a lot of the time. Blowtorch Saboteur can do pretty much the same thing, but then you also look at something like Face Hunter, which a lot of people were expecting to be pretty common in the metagame as well. And you can see that how a spider tank with an effect that shuts off the race can actually be pretty solid in that matchup as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing that pushed it over the edge for me as well, is just a pretty playable card, is the fact that it is a 3-mana 3/4, which is just a good shape, honestly. And it's just always going to get at least some level of work done on most things. So we do see that come down. Now SilverName's hero power does cost 3, but he does have his Frozen Shadow Weaver that he kept to then counteract this switch a little bit. Only give himself a playable turn on turn 3. Also a pretty solid one.
Is it cold in the
You always freeze them in there, right?
No. I think there's arguments to freezing face.
Behind your servants, I will still find you.
Umberwing there, for example, alongside the second slice and the hero power would be a beating for you.
That's true.
I think if you freeze the face and those two minions trade with each other, you're kind of just okay with that, to be perfectly honest, you know? Just the way that you played out the turn.
Yeah, that's fair, actually. Either way, Seiko dropped out the cane to deal with it instead. Still, game looking pretty even so far. Seiko does have a bit of a slow turn now, though, with no good turn 5 play.
Hey,
Double Skull of Gul'dan, but at least the Skull of Gul'dan on the left is just 100% playable next turn. Outcast.
Yeah. Both players now just sat on this double skull hand. SilverName. Oh, SilverName has a couple of big advantages now. One, that he actually gets to roll into this Warglaives of Azzinoth turn, whereas Seiko had a really big whiff on his turn 5. And now with double Skull, that Altruis is just simply lethal.
Seiko does get to Skull first, though.
Oof. I-Beam Metamorphosis Chaos Strike Gladebound Adept is looking pretty lethal as well. This one's just coming straight down to a race, Raven.
They will never catch me.
Hey, I got you,
I'm
friend.
going to choose to play out his cards now, though, not save them for the Altruis. He wants the board instead, start piling under pressure. I will say SilverName does have the health difference to make up, right? Seiko on 28 versus SilverName's 19 means that SilverName definitely has to catch them.
Sure. Now Seiko will be counting this out. He has 10 over 2 turns with the Metamorphosis. And Chaos Strike is 12, Hero Power is 13, Gladebound Adept is 17. Second Slice on top of that, so he should get there over 2 turns if there is no I-Beam from the opponent, but it's very much on the wire, which means he might just choose to respect some ball control here instead.
Yeah, and I like this a lot because with 2 I-Beams for Seiko, it means that he doesn't have to go super crazy on just hard racing. He can just say, well, I mean, I'm winning on board, I'm pushing a lot of damage, and I don't have to maximize that damage quite yet because there's an I-Beam 1 that he used then, and a second I-Beam, which means it's almost impossible for SilverName to set up any kind of 2-turn lethal here, especially due to the fact that he's not even winning on board.
And the fact that his Hero Power still costs 3 because he hasn't used it yet.
Patient.
It's not helping.
Mm-hmm. He also can't really use it yet. Maybe he can get away with it with using it now just because that Gladebound is cheap. He just gets it done. It feels bad, but whatever. It's going to hinder him.
It is, yeah. I was wondering whether it was just a double Gladebound turn, though, just for like the biggest of all tempo swings. You can just hit the 2-1 and then Gladebound 1 into the minion, 1 into the face. Just be setting up for a huge tempo swing on the following turn.
I do actually like this now, though. If he does this and then Gladebounds the Gladebound,
Okay.
and then just drops the side kick. This is a good set of swings here. This is maybe even a bigger tempo swing, honestly. So
Yeah. The only thing you're missing is the little bit of damage to the face, which is largely negligible here. This makes sense.
oh,
Do you see?
Oh my.
oh, SilverName.
Wait,
I don't believe
2, 4, 6, 7. I think that's lethal.
I'm just gonna presume he's dead. Yeah.
I think it's lethal, yeah. This deals 1, the Hero Power deals 5, and then I-Beam deals 1, and then you're attacking for 3. Pretty sure that makes 10.
Just
boom.
like that, the game ends. Both players had options for Altruis, but SilverName, with the health difference having to be caught up on, did have to go for more standard, just minion-based tempo plays instead of holding any of his Skull of Blood Ends for the Altruis on his side. But again, we just see the power of I-Beam. Not only, I'm not talking about like that lethal turn. Yes, it was a card that was playable, it did the job, but earlier on, just Seiko having 2 in hand meant that he didn't have to do those setups that you were counting up, right? Just saying, okay, if he does this and goes face, does this set up 2 turn? Does this set up the most pressure? It's like, well, I have 2 I-Beams. He is never racing me right now, and it means he can go a bit slower with his resources. And normally if you can spread those resources out in a fairly similar or mirror matchup, you're the one who's going to win if you can go just that little bit slower. Seiko did end up taking it with the help of an Altruis, of course.
Yeah, which means Seiko is now a single game away from keeping SilverName at the bottom of his division and, again, resigning him to just the worst possible start to the round-robin stage so far.
Yep, all on the line here for SilverName as the players dive straight into their next game. Demon Hunter
ends now.
will be the weapon of choice here for SilverName. Seiko, of course, only has his rogue left over. And you'll be maybe happy to
What do
see.
you mean? He's already won with Rogue. What do you mean? Scammed. What's going on?
So I think just the fact that he gets to play rogue again as an official admin decision, it means that actually he won with Priest. Yeah, I thought so. But you will be happy to
You
know...
accepted my terms, Raven. I don't have to listen to your babbling anymore.
in terms of the admins, subtle, as
Oh,
all
shut
people
up.
involved should do, and I'm just going with what the rules say, mate.
Okay.
Psycho is running the stealth package, though, so cheer up. Oh, he isn't running secrets.
Nice. All right, that did cheer me up. Yeah, Battle Mage into Umberwing, though, is certainly a beating when you're facing it down as a rogue. This Umberwing is so efficient against you. Psycho can dagger up and start picking this apart. But it does mean that SilverName can just continue to develop with Satyr Overseer straight after this. I don't think there's
Short.
any reason to attack here for SilverName.
I grow impatient.
The suspense is killing me, Raven. Okay, all right.
Probably just playing out his turns, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. There's dagger here, and there then would be Seal Fate. Deal with the Satyr Overseer. So
Yeah.
not looking too terrible for Psycho as long as he keeps his cool.
Yeah, that's the problem, though, is when it's Satyr Overseer in particular, the Seal Fate interaction just isn't that good for you. You're already starting to fall one minion behind the play, right, when that happens, because yes, you deal with the 4-2, but the 2-2's left over. So then you Seal Fate pass, and then your opponent develops again, and you're just scrambling from like one minion behind all the time.
And that's where the MVP devoted maniac can come into play.
Oh yeah, yeah. 4 mana trade with your token that spawned from your 3-drop. Yeah, what a card. It's just going to need a clutch lackey here. That one's pretty good, honestly.
He can coin into Shadow Step and replay if he wants to just say, actually, I'll have this turn, or at least, you know, overmatch the board. As you said, you don't want to be falling too far behind, and
Yeah.
if you plan on the Devoted Maniac next turn, I think it's a completely valid use of Shadow Step. I think in this matchup, you aren't really looking for the high value Shadow Steps, right? A lot of the time, you want the Shadow Steps that get most turn on board.
It's true. I was quite interested in just waiting one more turn, because I'm not necessarily panic stations just yet, and then next turn you could have had the same turn with a Devoted Maniac alongside it, clear up some of the board state, or you have the insane high rolls, right, where you find the Edwin Bank lead, for example, on the top. SilverName doesn't find a playable here. This is going to be a rough turn for him, and he doesn't. So Psycho's timing is going to pay out for him here. He is going to create that tempo swing that he was looking for.
And maybe that's the reason, right, Subtle? You wanted to wait till next turn, but this turn means there's no Warglaives coming down, which could clean this up very, very easily, whereas next turn there could be.
That is an excellent point.
I grow impatient.
God, Devoted Maniac is garbage. Just look at it. It's so bad.
Well, he gets to slay the demon on the other side of the board, Subtle.
Yeah.
So what you got to think about it? Think of it as a narrative. Could just go for Pharaoh Cat now. Praise Galacon and just hero power down to 2-1.
Agreed, yeah. Might find himself lackey options instead. So he can end up going, 4-1 cost cards this turn, potentially. Hey, he's going to use the dagger. Okay.
Also, as well, it means he has Devoted Maniac into Lackey next turn, or Praise Galakron if he needs to trade up with a 3 attack instead of 2. Here's the
Crucially
dreaded
now,
Warblades of Azeroth.
this is Invoke 2 and 3 now. SilverName might just hold back, look for some more upside. Nope, he's going to deal with it. Okay.
Also, funnily enough, the slight rarity of Seiko being able to get off a fairly safe Krunks this game seems reasonable. Especially because SilverName's most likely looking for a Skull of Gul'dan on the similar turn himself.
Bronx is honestly just a surprisingly good minion to race with in this matchup if you can get it down. Especially if you then find like Titanic Lackey, just to be able to slap on it and just start hitting face, make them deal with the problem.
Really, anything high health against Demon Hunter's going to do a decent job. One of my favorites is just like a Fate Weaver on curve against Demon Hunter. It's like, how do you deal 6? And the 3 attack is more than enough to threaten minions. Oh, is this Twin Slice Skull? It'd be horrible. He could kill the 1/4 and the 1/1.
He could, but I think SilverName would be well advised to try and keep up some pressure here. Because as you were talking about, it's rare that Seiko is able to play just Kronks on curve. That's because Demon Hunters rarely let you, and there's a reason they rarely let you. That Galakron is really good when you draw it.
Right.
So I would like SilverName to represent some pressure here, so this isn't just a free Kronks turn.
The problem is, if he doesn't do it now, is it then on the other side worth using Skull now because the board is quiet?
So,
Trying to go for a much bigger turn next turn? I don't know. I feel like it's really tough.
What are you going to do with your weapon charge here?
You can swing it into the 1/4 and then the 1/1.
Okay.
So you just leave a Mermy on board, and you've got to Skull of Gul'dan for value this turn.
Yeah.
And then you have the Glaive Bound to respond to a bigger push from Seiko. Because otherwise, would he be Glaive Bound in a 1/4?
No, you'd be weaponing the 1/4 still. You can still use the slice, right, alongside everything, but you just develop Battle Fiend and Glaive Bound instead.
Okay. Just aim the damage to phase, put Seiko on 15.
Yeah. It is slightly better because, as you mentioned, because you use the slice, you get that extra attack after the glaives go off, so you can take care of the lackey. Because otherwise, you're letting your opponent have a free Kronks or a free Heist Baron Togwaggle on that turn, where leaving the lackey up, which does make things significantly worse.
Seiko with the Shield of Galakron not going to go for Kronks here.
Yeah, it was the top deck. Does change the plan a little bit, and I think that signifies his intent to go all the way in with the Galakron, because that is now invoke number 3 for him, and the Devoted Maniac in hand is invoke number 4. So it suggests he's going to try and play both of those cards before dropping Gala.
Yeah, and I'll tell you guys watching at home here, this doesn't happen often in Rogue versus Demon Hunter. You do not often get to 4 invoke a Galakron out with some level of comfortability as well.
Comfortability?
Yeah, it's a new word of the day.
How many extra syllables did you need to put on the end of that?
At least 12.
Okay.
Comfortability. Looks all. I get worse as we cast more. Okay.
I know, I've been feeling that for about 4 years at this point.
Since that first cast.
The setup was too good. I had to knock it out of the park. Come on, what do you want?
It's what we do, okay?
Yeah.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Now, my big problem with this fully invoked Galakron plan is that it still involves playing this card Devoted Maniac, which is just so garbage.
Well, I'm a little bit interested with that turn. Don't get me wrong, when you flick a Gladebound is one of the most dangerous minions in the deck. So killing them both off is fantastic, obviously. But I wondered again whether the Krunks rush was any better, because you just got to use it, and get it out of the way, draw the Galakron so it's done. Because maybe Psycho has to bail out of the full Galakron, and just a 2-card Galakron is more than enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
Double time
But I do respect
this-
this. If you're going to flick anything, a Glaybound is pretty sick.
Yeah, and also this is just a much bigger tempo swing, right? Because I presume you're Kronxing and then you're rushing the Kronx into the Gladebound, right?
Which would,
So
yeah,
your
which would
Kronx your Kronx is just dying straight up, whereas this way you're actually creating a pretty big tempo swing on the board.
Yeah, and then don't get me wrong, in the ripple effect of this might mean you can land an easier Kronx because of this turn. So it's all kind of goes in a circle. Ooh, Metamorphosis always dangerous though.
And Seiko, quite deliberately, I think, preserved 1 health on his hero for the sake of 1 health on his flick. Which I think is, directly paying attention to those cards like Metamorphosis that can still end the game alongside Look at this Altruist hand! Don't be fooled by this card in the middle that says 4 on it and this card on the left that says 1 on it. Those are free. This Altruist hand is absurd. It's just lethal.
Lethal which way though, Sol? That's what SilverName's thinking about right now.
Grows sure.
Yeah.
Not much he can do, so I don't blame him. He can't. It won't change lethal if he Chaos Strikes this flick. It's 5 damage no matter which way you look at it, right? So if you cannot actually remove the threat without taking damage, don't remove the threat. Just leave it and try and do your best to set up lethal your way. So I understand SilverName looking for that, but I get behind the let's just close your eyes, ignore that it's there, and try and do your best to win the game in the next turn with Altruist.
So I think currently SilverName has 12 damage, but he's drawing 2 more cards, 1 naturally, and then 3 more cards actually.
I think 13, right? Because of the second hero power?
He only has 1 hero. He hasn't used a Metamorphosis yet.
Oh, of course. Sorry, apologies.
Yeah. So he's drawing 3 cards on top of that. 1 naturally at the start of the turn, 1 off the Sigil Outcast, and then 1 off the Chaos Strike.
Ooh.
So there are possibilities.
He can rush his lifesteal.
Oh my goodness, I
gonna
hadn't
do
even
it?
looked at what he
Is he gonna
generated.
do it though?
He has to. He has to. It's,
yeah, if there's something
this
you
is
want at this point in the game, it's health.
This is not caster vision. Like, this is just the play.
Right. Because again, I'll just reiterate, I think I said a little bit earlier, at this point, if you are Seiko, you are winning this game of Hearthstone. The only way you consistently lose here is if Demon Hunter just gets you with either an Altruist or some other level of high burst turn, but really Altruist into that Metamorphosis hero power. The Metamorphosis is face up because he passed it. Seiko knows he's under threat burst damage. I don't think it really changes SilverName's turn, but still, health difference is huge.
He does have to outcast all the way from the left now. He's locked into that because of the Satyr Overseer draw, which has kind of clogged up the right-hand side of his hand. The draws are not offering him any additional damage. But, most importantly, it's just a huge board.
It is. There is betrayal.
Betrayal positioning, something to be desired, though. Literally couldn't have positioned it better for Betrayal if he tried. Well, I guess worse for Betrayal if he tried. It's a generated card, though. I'm not giving him too much of a hard time. It just so happens this is where we are.
Where would you betray, though? Would you betray the Fellwing on the right?
No, you go dead center, and it kills 2 Fellwings.
Oh, yeah, I'm just wondering how he kills this Altruist, right? Is he... Should be scared of the Altruist with 4 health.
Sure.
Nothing but power.
It always gets there, Sol.
I mean, when your opponent's at 4, it pretty often gets there, yeah.
1 off. Actually insane.
So he can use Praise Galakron and Betrayal, or as he can, as you just said, use the Betrayal over on the right-hand side, and then save the health that way.
rush
that's
Lackey
insane.
is massive. Because, again, Headcrack looks good. He does not need to cast Headcrack this turn because he has a dagger swing.
Yeah. Just swing face.
Did you get it off?
Swing face.
You got it off,
Did
right?
the attack go through? Did all these attacks
No.
go through? Oh no! That's such a disaster!
That's just lethal.
Yeah. Just had lethal represented anyway, so it's not going to matter too much. That dagger swing did have to go face for Seiko to give himself any chance, but SilverName, by the hair on his chinny chin, scrapes his way out of this one, taking it all the way down to a Game 5 on the limit.
Yeah, and you look there, yes, there was the lifesteal and rush from Seiko, but you saw what SilverName had to have to fight back and still give him a chance, and it was one mega Altruist there, and it was still just about enough. So close. And again, games like that, when you end up one off lethal, those are the ones you rewind all the way to the beginning and go, could I have pushed any extra damage and still been a reasonable play, right? I'm not saying that, oh, we should have ignored a Satyr Overseer and pushed one damage, because then the game looks very different, of course. But it's just those small moments, right, where you've just got to ask yourself, was one damage somewhere? He got so close. But we are going to be going to a game number 5, and it's going to be a Rogue Mirror here. And I'll just say there, Subtle, Rogue lost.
Rogue's 1-1 in this series. It's
Okay.
fine. It is. I'm still wondering about the turns. Like, there was multiple turns where the Kronks could have been played, right?
Yeah.
To guarantee that Galakron draw, and the 5 armor from the
always
Galakron
do.
draw could have potentially made all the difference in that scenario.
I mean, look at the rush one. As you quite rightly said, it was less of a tempo play, but it got you Galakron draw in a very safe outcome because you drew the Galakron, used the Kronks into pretty much an empty board, right? Which is as good as it's ever going to get.
Right.
But that doesn't matter at this point now. Let's move into the final game of the series. Rogue Mirror. SilverName at a 0-2 scoring round robin so far. Really needs this win to keep himself with a fighting chance. But Seiko, running on a 2-1, would extend to the effectively near, if not the top of the table, with a 3-1 point score if he wins.
Nothing but power.
Bit of a tough call there, actually. I was eyeing up Cold Blood, which I often do. But yeah, did go for the Waxmancy instead. More of a value-based
Yeah,
play.
Think I like the Waxmancy. Again, yeah, just for a value option. And it's understandable based on the last nightmare that SilverName had with his Rogue, right? Where he just completely ran out of value for him to take the value option. Seiko looking very downtrodden after that last game, though.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that's because he lost or because he messed up the turn. You know,
Right.
it's probably might even be the latter. Is the biggest issue there. But what a mixed bag of minions. Give a friendly minion poisons, 4 mana, 3/3. Basis Manipulator, and then a Stowaway. Not great,
So
Sol.
I'm thinking...
Not great.
Yeah, I'm thinking Faceless initially, just so you can create some kind of Faceless Blackjack Stunner swing turn along the lines, but Playbringer is decent with the amount of lackeys and so on that you play. Problem is, though, your lackeys are always like must-kill target for the opponent anyway, because they understand how potent they are with High Sparrow and Togwaggle around,
Right.
so they're kind of rarely sticking to the board.
Home in the shadows.
Is he doing it? All in? All in against Blackjack Stunner? I guess that's the answer to my question.
In the shadows.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Oh yeah, double of this. You just go.
Imagine if he just doesn't dagger the 1-1.
It's like, oh, again!
Just leaves it there and just gets Plague-bringered into next month. Like, oh.
I wonder if that would just be a snap concede. What do you think?
I think, like, the honourable thing to do is concede at that point, yeah.
So if it was Pavel, he would have
I
conceded.
wonder.
Yeah, the honourable thing to do is to concede.
Oh, is he just playing it?
Time for an experiment.
I will act as your scale dragon.
Just playing it as a big old bamboozle target, since it is a native a natural 4-drop. It'll turn into a 7.
From the land of 4-drops.
Yep.
Nice though, because the Spy Mistress would have cleaned up an ambush if that was the secret. Laid there, so pretty clean here from Seiko, but
So many options.
I like the all-face plan. I think with the Shield of Galakrond, he has the liberty to ignore a lot of what SilverName's doing unless he plays a taunt.
Yeah.
So I like this. He's got double Eviscerate.
Yeah. I think most importantly, there's just no way your opponent makes this play unless it's bamboozle. Like, it would be the best bluff of all time if SilverName just found a way to get away with this, and having this 3-3 on board was super important, and he just played a secret to bluff bamboozle, because no one would be that stupid, right? No one actually is that stupid. It is bamboozle.
I was just trying to work out if there's a play that is Rush Minion with Shadow Step here somehow, and Shadow Step the poison back. They're not going to quite split it.
Yeah, I mean, particularly because this thing still costs 2 after you Shadow Step it. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
From nothing.
Uh-huh.
Play. Wait, he could have just killed the fleet this turn.
How?
You do that anyway, and I'm missing something.
He could have gone backstab, betrayal of this, right?
He could have also
Dealt with it that way.
Plague.
Uh-huh.
Just face trade.
Right, and then just evist it anyway. Yeah. Both of those seem more efficient than what he did, yeah.
I guess this doesn't give Seiko a dagger?
Well, Seiko already has a dagger.
Give Seiko a slightly different colored dagger?
Yeah.
And now, moments in the game I love. Does Seiko get the bamboozle out of the way now, or does he continue with his just smoke plan?
Yeah, you
That's
deal
my
with
answer.
it, pretty
Yep.
sure.
Pay attention, class.
It really does interest me, though.
He just has flick for tempo here if he wants, which I'm pretty sure he does. Just keep this up. Problem is, he's going to run headlong into a Cartoon defender here, which is shutting down this smoke plan pretty effectively.
Does have the Abyss, though.
Well, that's why I'm saying Cartoon's bad. He's got 2 Abysses that can go face, plus 7 damage in play.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, at least he can get through the Cartut without using minions, right?
Right.
He can just play like Devoted Maniac, Abyss, and then keep going, head down.
What if you step your flick and then rush it? No, you wouldn't even need to. Just trade in with your flick and then step your flick.
I prefer this. Well, if he eviscerates. We'll see. I prefer this play
really
that he's not actually made yet.
I just really like Devoted Maniac, okay?
Oh! Like a madness.
Oh, Plague of Madness. Shiv, actually? Maybe? Deadly Poison, even. Hang on, they're all good.
Cards are good.
So now you can backstab, trade, and Shiv.
Much better than using Eviscerate.
Yep.
I like this from Seiko. Just get more stuff to do, because he is putting the pressure on, and the more options he has, the more likely he is to make them work.
Deadly Poison appears to say damage on it, so I like that pick.
And he's got the mana with how low cost his hand is. He's got the mana to dagger up next turn. Sorry, this turn even. Apologies. I'm going to use the Shiv. Use dagger instead.
So use dagger instead of Shiv, okay. Yeah, I guess that invests into 1 damage next turn as well, so that is technically slightly more efficient. Makes some sense.
And there is not a lot SilverName can do about it. Does he have to play Blackjack and Faceless here?
Oh.
Yeah, I feel you, but... Desperate times. Desperate times.
Yeah. You go with Devoted Maniac instead, and then he gets himself a lackey for next turn to use with the Faceless Corruptor. Both of them are miserable lackeys to be playing on an empty board. Yes, exactly. Which is a big deal.
What? Is that lethal? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, that is lethal. Seiko takes the victory, and SilverName, unfortunately, going to be going to a 0-3 score. The first 3 matches for him for Grandmasters looking pretty dire. Seiko, on the other hand, going to a 3-1 score, which not 100% sure yet, but must be putting him to the top of the leaderboard there. So congratulations to him. He takes the win. Out of a very strange rogue matchup we don't see too often, which is just the aggressive rogue style coming out from Seiko there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, honestly, I was on board with SilverName's play. I think the way he dealt with the Edwin was a bit messy, but his play at the end there, which a lot of people might look at and say, well, that got him killed. I think that just makes sense because he can't throw away Blackjack Stunner and Faceless Corruptor into that board because then he's just out-resourced and out-healthed by the Rogue on the other side. So he doesn't know he's staring at 2 Eviscerates over the other side of the board. Just because we can see that doesn't make the play that he made wrong. He's trying to stretch out his resources a little bit longer, and he's investing a little bit more of his health into doing that. And that's something that you can do against Rogue now since Leroy's gone. The burst damage is very small. It's the Galakron weapon and it's Eviscerates, and a lot of rogues don't even run Eviscerates. Of course, this is open deck lists, and SilverName knows that Seiko was running Eviscerates in that position, but I still think his stance at the end there was very much justifiable.
It really was, yeah. And there is a summary of the day here, and the final day this week as well. We had Boston take his needed win over Zim, but unfortunately both of those players desperately needed a win there. Zim was on the receiving end of a 3-0 beating. Casey, on the other hand, must be feeling top of the world right now as he goes from a 0-2 to a 2-2 score after a 2-0 win this weekend. Yala taking a close one over Hunter Race as well for match number 3. That one felt like a long one, but I just think it felt long due to how tense that matchup was between Yala and Hunter.
Yeah, and then moving on, Swids versus Ball Control was a very, very close one as well, coming down to the wire. Ball Control, I think, will feel hard done by with a couple of those zoo draws at the end, and actually Flame Imps coming in clutch for Swids, surprisingly. Although Ball Control might argue that the Beaming Psychics had more to do with it than the Flame Imps did. And then the matchup we just witnessed, the crucial one at the bottom of this table, Raven, as SilverName now joins Zim at a 0-3 record. The only 2 players now to not pick up a win out of their first 3 games in either division. And it's worth saying Zim is in more dire straits than SilverName is, being at the bottom of Division B rather than the bottom of Division A. But SilverName's still not a pretty start for him whatsoever.
It is, yeah. And the pressure really is going to continue to stack. Gets more high stakes every single week that goes by, and only 2 more weeks left of round robin. But look at this, Viper, Yala, and now Seiko looking pretty comfortable at a 3-1 record. This could also, of course, always go wrong, but for now, looking pretty good. Those 3 wins behind them. Unfortunately, some of the players could have gone 4. Didn't quite make it. I think Viper this weekend especially had the opportunity to go 4-0, which would have looked fantastic for him in that Division B and just being ultra safe going into the rest of the matches. But again, a crazy weekend, and with nerfs coming up this week, we're going to have a crazier next weekend, as we don't really know how that's going to impact the meta, and maybe with some whispers of the Paladin buff making it good enough, maybe we'll see an unforced Paladin submission in Grandmasters next week. But Sottle, it's your favorite time of the day, so take it away.
Before I get into that, I want to say, as a responsible journalist and as a man of integrity, I want to say for the record that today, Rogue sucked again. It did not seem like it was getting itself over the line. It was back to its tricks from last week. But the first 2 days, Rogue was spot on. But yeah, before we leave you, we give you one final request to subscribe to our channel and also to smash that bell so hard you crack it like the Liberty Bell. Make sure that you can get all of the alerts from all of our uploads. We do plenty of content outside of just this stream, so you can subscribe to the YouTube channel for all of that content as well. And please do set a reminder for our next stream when we go live next week.
Yep, that's going to be it from us for today. So thanks a lot for watching. We really appreciate it. But stay tuned, as America's is going to be coming right up with TJ and Frodan to round out and finish the weekend. But there's more round robin next week, so make sure you tune in for that. So all of myself say goodbye. We'll see you next week.